one thing that a guard does not want to do when a quarterback sets short, you have to protect your inside shoulder.
Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann, ESPN's All-Pro team, bring you NFL excitement when the Broncos and Seahawks battle for the division title on NFL Sunday Night Football, live on ESPN.
To the Old West tonight, the showdown when two meet face to face and only one walks away. Like five gunslingers fighting for control of the same street, the teams in the AFC West have shot it out for 14 weeks, and only two have been gunned down. The other three have more showdowns to come. Dan Reeves has seen his offense sputter and his defense crumble on the way to 7-7. It's the same for Chuck Knox in Seattle. 7-7, not great, but still alive. It's hard to see just who will win in the AFC West.
Out to the west, there's a trail that leads somewhere. We'll call it the wild, but take some people there. Crazy and you have to use that gun. And you wonder if this is the way the West is won. Wow, years will go by when you won't get nowhere. You're cold and you're tired and you don't care. Won't get nowhere. You got a right to get where you're going.
Thing is clear. Neither Denver nor Seattle can afford to lose the shootout tonight. This is the Kingdome in Seattle, where we have a sellout crowd of almost 65,000 to watch a battle for first place in the division between the Broncos and the Seahawks. The standings in the AFC West, Denver and Seattle tied for first at 7-7. The Raiders drop a half game behind after losing at Buffalo this afternoon. And now the playoff picture. For Denver, it's simple. They have to win their last two. Seattle needs to win its last two, or if it loses tonight, they can beat the Raiders next week if the Broncos lose to the Patriots. For the Los Angeles Raiders, it is much more complicated. Obviously, they need help, and this is unofficial. The National Football League has not announced the complete scenario and will not until about an hour from now. We'll bring it to you when they do. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Patrick along with Joe Theismann, and it's great to have you with us on ESPN. For John Elway, it has not been the best of years, but in all truth, Joe, it hasn't been all John Elway's fault either.
No, it really hasn't, Mike. When you talk to the Denver Bronco players, they feel like John Elway has taken this football team as far as he can take them. He needs some help. They've said, we need to help John Elway. John Elway doesn't need to help us anymore. He's coming in fairly healthy. His ankle is healed. His knee is healed. The list goes on and on. The biggest concern was a broken bursa sac in his right elbow, which was drained on Friday. He said there's a little bit of swelling in it, but he's okay and it doesn't bother him.
Now, for Seattle, Dave Craig does not get the publicity that John Elway does, but when he was out injured, this team really struggled. He gave him a lift when he came back.
David Craig is the key to the Seattle Seahawks' success tonight. He has to play the kind of football that he's been capable of playing. He goes out, he's 5-2 when he's played. He's only been sacked about 8 times in the entire season this year. So he's the kind of a player who can ignite the offense. The important thing about David Craig, he doesn't have the strong arm, but he's playing with a lot of confidence, and this is something that he hasn't done. He is playing the best football of his career right now.
The Denver Broncos have won the toss. As you look at the Kingdome, and Chuck Knox, career record of 153, 99-1. That's his overall record. You see his regular season record, 146, 89-1. He's the only coach to take 3 teams to the playoffs. And there is Dan Reeves, the only team in the AFC West he does not have a winning record against, and it is the Seattle Seahawks. Norm Johnson preparing to kick off. And deep to receive, Jason Johnson, number 87, and Ken Bell, number 35. As we said earlier during prime time, usually 7-7 teams meeting each other in the next to last week of the season doesn't mean a lot, but it does in this one. Ken Bell takes it 4 yards deep. And they'll start from the 20. John Elway brings out the Denver offense. He is working on his 4th straight 3,000-yard passing year, but he has also thrown 18 interceptions. The Broncos rely on the pass, and Mark Jackson is coming off the most productive 2 games of his career, a total of almost 300 yards receiving. The offensive line is so beat up they couldn't even practice in pads this week. Jim Juriga has been moved from left tackle to right guard, and he is playing with a separated shoulder. Elway rifles it incomplete, trying for his tight end Clarence Kay, and it was off his hand. The Seattle defense is small up front and vulnerable to the run. Jacob Green, the NFL's 3rd all-time sacker, has 7 this year. With Brian Bosworth injured and Fred Young traded, some other linebackers have had a chance to shine. David Wyman has overcome multiple injuries to become their 2nd leading tackler. Number 1 on that tackle list is the free safety Eugene Robinson. He's a 4-year man and a big-time hitter in the secondary. They'll go with 3 wide receivers, Jackson, Johnson, and Natil on 2nd and 10. Delay to Sewell. Sewell did a great job of playing off his blocks. And Sewell starting tonight for Tony Dorsett, Joe.
That's right. When we talked to Dan Reeves, he pointed out the fact that Sewell is a much better receiver. He feels like in this dome, they're going to have to throw the football if they're going to beat Seattle tonight. Obviously, Tony Dorsett, not the same type of receiver, not as good a receiver, and so he's limited that way. So that's why they've started Sewell.
And that's really amazing considering that he's caught passes for more than 3,500 yards in his career, and he's number 4 all time. But Sewell is simply a better receiver. Winder gets the call out to the 35-yard line. First man there was Jacob Green. Darren Como, number 53, also in on the tackle. Winder right now is their only fullback. Gerald Wilhite on injured reserve with a bad shoulder and a strained Achilles heel. He's really not a fullback, though, at 203 pounds.
Well, they don't really have a fullback. They have a bunch of little halfbacks. You know, with Dorsett, Sewell, Bell, and Winder, they've got 4 guys that just complement the running game out of the shotgun.
2nd and 5, Elway in the center. Jackson to midfield, brought down by Eugene Robinson, the free safety. Gain of 15.
This, you know, they talk about guys with a gun. John Elway has got a gun. Now, this ball doesn't belong there. He wants to go out wide, but now he just loads and loads and fires. Look at that. Can you believe it? That went right over Joe Nash's ear. I mean, he's got little burns on his ear right now from that ball going.
I'm sure he heard it.
Yeah, it whistled right by.
1st and 10 Broncos just inside Seattle territory. Winder got about 4. And talking to Dan Reeves last night, they've already run more than he thought they would.
Well, you know, he felt like because of this crowd noise, he couldn't afford to have John Elway come up under the center and really run from a T formation, hand off to the halfback, throw from out of the pocket. He felt like he'd have to be in the shotgun. As long as they keep moving the football and keep these fans quiet, Elway can move up under the center.
Comes the blitz. Away for Jackson. Just overthrown. Terry Taylor beaten on the play. And Elway knew he had 6 if that pass is inches shorter.
Well, it's an excellent call because you got 3rd down and 6 or 2nd down and 6. You figure that the defensive backs are going to sit on the receivers a little bit. Here, Taylor's giving him a lot of room as well as getting beat up top, and he just can't quite get to it.
So that brings up a 3rd and 6. Jackson with nearly 300 yards and catches the last 2 weeks. And here's the crowd. Ball tipped at the line of scrimmage. Incomplete. There's a flag down. Jacob Green got a big rush on Elway, who had to step inside it.
Well, he got a big rush because he was offsides. I think the fans have got to be aware of the fact that when they're screaming to try and upset Elway, it also throws off their defensive linemen.
Offside, defense number 79, 5-yard penalty, repeat third down.
The crowd noise really brings up a whole bunch of problems. Offensively for the Broncos, they can't quite get the ball off in a rhythm because they have to rely on just having the center snap the ball because no one else can hear it. Now on defense, they try and get a pacing and a timing when the center snaps the ball, so they're guessing a little bit.
3rd and 1. No way. Como was there, Jacob Green was there, and Sammy Winder never had a chance.
I'd go for it right now. If I'm the Broncos, I would make the decision to go for it. They haven't scored, as we showed the graphic, on an opening drive all year. They have to go for it. This is a do-or-die football game, and you don't pull it back in a game like this.
And they are going to go for it. And they've got 3 wide receivers in the game, and Sewell will go out on a wing. Shotgun on 4th and 1. Quick kick. Elway did it twice a week ago. And a great job. Vance Johnson downfield, a 38-yard quick kick down to the 2. Nothing. First quarter back in a moment. Tonight's game from Seattle is brought to you by the German-engineered Volkswagens and your Volkswagen dealers. By new Michelob Dry. One taste and you'll drink it dry. And by True Value Hardware. For quality, selection, and personal attention, make True Value Hardware your store of first choice. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann with you on ESPN from the Kingdome in Seattle. No score first quarter.
Great call. See what he's doing now? Instead of talking about the quick kick, Elway is talking to Whitney and Mateel about some of the routes. Now, when they go back on the field, they'll be back on the same page.
Seattle starts from just outside its own 2. Warner. Maybe a yard and no more. Dave Craig is Seattle's quarterback. It's his 15 back after missing 7 with a shoulder injury. He has 12 touchdown passes, only 7 interceptions. Excellent offensive weapons for Seattle. John L. Williams has become an outstanding back with more than 1,000 yards combined rushing and receiving. Up front, it's a good group of run blockers. The best, Brian Millard. He has Pro Bowl ability. 2nd and 9 for the Seahawks, pinned deep in their own territory. Craig to Warner. Kurt Warner cracks out to the 15. He has the first down. Denver's defense has struggled against the run this year, but noseman Greg Cragen has done his job. He leads the team in tackles with 124. It's unusual. The Broncos get a real boost with the return of Carl Mecklenburg. He'll line up anywhere, trying to find a weakness and make the big play. It is a veteran secondary strong safety, Dennis Smith, one of the best, selected to play in the last 2 Pro Bowls. 1st and 10. Seahawks at their own 16. John L. Williams with his first carry. Bouncing out to the 22-yard line. Williams is 226 pounds with moves and speeds, and as you see, has the best combined yardage of any fullback in the conference.
What's happening here is you see the amount of players that Denver has to put within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. They've got 9 guys within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now, they can't stop the run with that many people up front. They're going to give Seattle the opportunity to run the play-action pass, to isolate their wide receivers one-on-one with the cornerback.
Warner. One of the best cutback runners in the league, out to the 40-yard line. Jeremiah Castile knocked him down, but 2 plays in a row, they have shredded the middle of that Denver defense.
Well, what happens is from the I formation, every back likes to start it one way and cut it back. Now here, Warner's going to get Mecklenburg thinking that he knows where he's going with that club on his arm, and then just cuts it back the other way. Karl Mecklenburg, of course, plays all the 7 different positions up front, and he's really playing one-handed. You see that big cast and that club protecting his hand.
Chuck Knox loves to run the football. And run play action. Craig in trouble, got rid of it. Warner makes the catch. He'll lose a couple. Simon Fletcher over there to run him out of bounds. Warner had one of the worst knee injuries that a running back or any football player can have, and I think he has come back from reconstructive knee surgery as well or better than anyone I've ever seen.
It takes 2 or 3 years. People expect a lot. Actually, not people, but the athlete expects a lot that first year back, but you just physically can't do it. We've seen him now. Now, he doesn't even talk about it like he ever was hurt.
2nd and 12. Freddie Gilbert comes in as a down lineman for Denver. Warner on the toss. Castillo will take him out of bounds. Also a nice job by Dennis Smith, the strong safety who came up to strip some of the blocking on it.
Again, that's what we're talking about, Mike. Denver is having to commit their strong safeties and their weak safeties to run support, which means that Castillo and Haynes are going to be exposed to one-on-one coverage. Right now, you're in 3rd and long. You know that Seattle's going into their shotgun. They're going to put those 4 guys out. Big down for Denver to shut down Seattle's offense.
Blades, Butler, Largent, and Scansey are the wide receivers. Craig steps up in the pocket. Largent at the Denver 44. Mike Harden made the tackle. A 19-yard gain for one of the great receivers that has ever played the game.
Well, he's one of those guys that was too small, too slow, and too everything. Houston gave up on him, and now he comes out. Now, he's the inside receiver here. You see the cornerback blitz off his face, so there's really nobody on him. Now he runs a little shake in, shake out, and just find me in the middle David catch. I don't know if they called it that way in the huddle, but that's what the result was.
Seattle at the Denver 44. Craig is perfect on 3 passes so far. Warner got a couple this time. Going back to that catch by Largent, reading about him and getting ready for this game, I read something that I had not seen before. Really incredible. He says he focuses on the very tip of the football until he can see the grains in the leather. And he also says that he can watch the flight of the first half of the ball, close his eyes, put up his hands, and he can still catch it.
Well, he never could have done that with mine. Because the flight of the first half of the ball never was what the flight of the second half of the ball was. I'd have thrown him a curve. But that only speaks to the intensity and the student of the game that he is.
Tyson Spagnuolo, 2 tight ends in on 2nd and 8. 5-man rush, Craig with time. Williams shakes the tackle, dives to the 32. Should be a first down. Castillo and Ryan made the tackle. And John L. Williams with 45 catches, the leading receiver for this ball club.
Well, here, you see Karl Mecklenburg. Now, remember, he's got that thumb protected with that club. He's only got one arm. He can't wrap the other arm on John L. I mean, we're talking about a 75% Karl Mecklenburg trying to play in this position. When he's hampered that much with that arm, I still have to wonder, is his effectiveness any better than somebody with 2 hands might be?
Right at the end of that play, you might have seen Jeremiah Castile hit by Jim Ryan, his own man. Got him with the helmet, and Castile a little shaken up. Looks like he'll be all right. And Steve Wilson, number 45, is on the field to come in the secondary in his place. 6:31 to go, first quarter.
My pal here is getting to be quite the football expert thanks to Domino's Pizza. They're delivering Seahawk football cards with every pizza, and they've got the best delivery in town. And he's great at interceptions.
this week, get Domino's Pizza Seahawk cards of John L. Williams, M.L. Johnson, Grant Fiesel, and Ken Clark with every hot, fresh Domino's Pizza you order. And complete your set next week.
Aren't you going to share?
You gotta play cards you delivered.
Some of the nearly 65,000 people on hand tonight in Seattle to watch their Seahawks try to go a game up in the AFC West. There's Castile on the bench. He looks all right.
Yeah, he's going to go find Jim Ryan when he comes back on the bench and say, look, the guys in the blue you're supposed to hit. I'm a white shirt. See, I'm with you.
Steve Wilson, the veteran out of Howard, number 45 on the field in the place of Castile. 1st and 10, Seahawks. Incomplete, intended for Blades. Wilson on the coverage, and it looks like interference coming up on Steve Wilson.
Well, you just know that they've got to run the play action and try and isolate the corners I talked about. When you've got 8 or 9 people committed to the line of scrimmage,
defense, 1st and 10.
it makes it so difficult, and you put so much pressure on your cornerbacks. Here they run a play action pass. Brian Blades just pushes Wilson down the field, and he's trying to make a play on the ball. There's the ball in the air now. He comes right over the top of him, or thereabouts. It's pretty good. It's a pretty tight defensive call.
Sure is.
You just can't get yourself on top of the guy.
Break for the Seahawks, 1st and 10 at the 14. Williams went outside. If he cut back inside, looked like he had a pretty decent hole. Boyer made the tackle.
You know, it's amazing you say that, Mike, because as a quarterback, I used to turn around and hand the ball to John Riggins, and John would look like he's running into a crowd, and I saw a hole someplace else. And I said to him once, why didn't you break it back inside? He says, here, you run it. I never said that again.
Last
I never
time,
said
huh?
I saw the hole anymore. I said, no, it's okay, I understand. Go wherever you feel like you have to go.
Jeremiah Castile back in at the corner for Denver, 2nd and 11. Williams, inside handoff. Back to the original line of scrimmage and no more. Simon Fletcher makes the tackle. It will be 3rd and 10.
Well, that was a trap play. Seattle has been very successful with Largent coming in motion, running a sweep with John L. Williams outside. That time what happens, they brought Largent in. They figure, well, Denver's going to study the films. So now what we'll do is we'll pull the offside tackle and try and kick the end out and run John L. up inside. Denver did a good job of making the adjustment.
This is the 12th play of an impressive drive for the Seahawks. Rulon Jones, number 75, in as a pass rusher at right defensive end. Williams, touchdown!
David Craig just finds John L. Williams. The Broncos are in a man-to-man defense underneath. That's Steve Wilson trying to cover John L. Williams, and he just can't do it.
Norm Johnson comes on for the point after. He has not missed this year. Largent is the holder. That's the first time all year Seattle has started inside its own 10 and even got past its own 30-yard line. John L. Williams on the sideline after making his 2nd touchdown grab of the season, and putting the Seahawks up 7-0. Johnson to kick off. Bell 35 and Jason Johnson 87 back to receive. Bell at the goal line. Flag is down. So is Bell at the 17, and there's another flag down. You may have seen number 97 Rufus Porter fly by.
Illegal block in the back, number 56, receiving team during the return. Half the distance penalty from the spot of the foul.
Maybe the reason Rufus Porter was flying is he got some help.
Well, it happens when you get going and you get a little extra impetus, you fly along. There he goes. Now he's moving. Now he's flying. So that means if you don't move your feet, you just can't. The biggest thing in this game is getting your feet moving. Offensive lineman, whether you're any kind of a blocker, you got to get your feet moving or else you just can't get there.
Elway starts inside his own 10. Complete to Mobley, the tight end, up to the 14-yard line. Joe, let's go back to that last touchdown and see what happened with Williams out of the backfield.
Well, what happens is when you look at it, you'll see this is Steve Wilson right here. Now, he's going to engage himself with the receiver a little too long and allow John L. to come outside. The cornerback is involved in man-to-man, and he's run off. Now, as we run it, you stop it right there. You see how Wilson has got his hands here on the receiver, Brian Blades. He will not be able to recover and get out into his zone to cover. And there, John L. makes the catch.
Back to live action, 2nd and 3. Sewell. Across the 17-yard line. Should have enough for a first down. Scoring drive for the Seahawks. 97 yards after Elway's quick kick. The longest touchdown drive of the year for Seattle. Took nearly 7 minutes off the clock. And Craig finished it off to John L. Williams.
Talking to Chuck Knox, he says the most important thing we can do as an offense is keep the football and score points so John Elway cannot be on the field, and they did it in that first drive.
Sure did. It is the first down, Denver. Elway caught. Coming in from the outside, Tony Woods, the right linebacker. And we've got a fight. Jeff Bryant, the Seahawk, involved, and a flag has gone down. If you watched some football games today, you saw there's a lot of testiness on the part of people in Week 15.
It's a testy time of year. I mean, there's a lot at stake. These last couple weeks, there's a lot at stake in this football game. You're talking about a division championship. Although at 9-7 or 8-8, it will not be impressive. It still gets you into the big round robin tournament in single elimination.
The indication was the penalty would go against the Broncos. And we'll see if it was a dead ball foul after the play.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness after the play, but an inbounds dead ball. Number 60 offense. Penalties declined. 2nd down.
Gerald Perry, the only healthy offensive lineman they've got. Probably the only one they're willing to get in a fight.
they can't afford to get him hurt in a fight, though. You know, I mean, at least let him go down in a gun battle.
He's the only one that could go more than 3 rounds.
He's the only one that can raise his arms enough to hit anybody, I think.
So it's 2nd and 15 now. Elway got away from Green. That slipped. Recovered by Billy Bryan, the center. Pressure by Ken Clark.
There you see Jacob Green come around the corner on Ken Lanier. Now he's just flat out running the tackle. He gets his helmet almost, or his hand on Elway's helmet. Now Elway's trying to buy some time. He loads once, the ball just slides out of his hand. That's a loose football. Billy Bryant does an excellent job of just fielding it and getting out of bounds. Doesn't matter. I don't think they'll try to quick kick now. What do you think?
I don't think so. 3rd and 25 from your own 2. That goes down as a Ken Clark sack. And Elway just avoided the safety and threw it out of bounds.
I talked to Elway on the field before tonight during the warm-ups, and he said that I asked, did the crowd noise bother you? He said, it doesn't really bother me. He said, it's just annoying. It's one of those things you have to deal with that just is a pain in the neck because it hampers communication. There you see he's just really unloading the ball so that they don't wind up with a safety.
Mike Horan is on to punt, having a great year, averaging 44 yards a kick. And deep to receive, Bobby Joe Edmonds. Low line drive kick. Edmonds will try to get it on the bounce. It got by him. All the way back to his own 43. He returns it into Denver territory at the 49. A 5-yard return after a 50-yard punt. Somewhere in his bag, Santa Claus has a division championship, and there are 2 teams here tonight.
I'll tell you, it looks like, looking at his colors and the condition he's in, it looks like he just got in from Buffalo through that weather. There's Boz's report card. Business A, marketing A, fashion A, hairstyle B, and football D. Of course, he's out with a shoulder injury. He had some orthoscopic surgery quite a while ago and has been placed on IR. And, you know, the fans here want to see Boz play football, and he hasn't, so they're disappointed.
Seattle takes over at the Denver 48-yard line. Tice, the tight end, inside the 40 to the 36-yard line. You know, Chuck Knox has been criticized here, even offhandedly by the new owner, Ken Behring, for lack of flair on offense. I haven't seen much of lack of flair in this offense.
What people don't realize, when you put 4 wide receivers out and you're in a shotgun offense, you can't get any more flair.
You bet.
I mean, you know, you drop back, you throw the football, you know, David Craig's got 12 touchdown passes. He's only been sacked 9 times. I'd much rather have a football team that wins a title than is flashy and fancy.
Warner got away from Smith. Simon Fletcher pushed him out of bounds for about a gain of 2.
Simon Fletcher's having what we deem, and this is the time, matter of fact, they'll vote on the Pro Bowls tomorrow. Most of the teams will. He's got 9 sacks, 1 interception, has really played well for Denver. He's a guy that's, when Mecklenburg out, it's really fallen on his shoulders to get the job done, and he has.
Second and 8 situation with only 2:24 to go first quarter.
Seattle going without a huddle. I guess everybody's been studying a little bit of the Sam Weish playbook out of Cincinnati. Let's try it without a huddle. Of course, it doesn't help you when the officials stop play.
Yeah, the teams don't huddle anymore, but the officials do.
That's right. Well, they figure, you know, you need a huddle at some point in time.
7 seconds.
Oh, shucks.
2:27.
Now they walk back in the huddle and go, oh, shucks, we couldn't use it.
And Larson is coming up to tell the official, hey, look, we're putting 3 seconds back on the clock. We had a play going here. And Chuck Knox is not happy about it at all.
Well, you know, it's a key situation. They're up 7. They've got the ball in great situation. That's why he's yelling at Gordon McCarter, the referee, and trying to say, hey, why did you do it then?
Craig is 6 out of 6 so far. Gives it to Warner. Warner down to the 21-yard line. Jim Ryan and Randy Robbins had to make the tackle coming up from the safety spot.
Again, we're talking about Kurt Warner coming out of the I formation. He starts outside to the left and then just cuts back to where the bubble is. You see Mecklenburg really being pushed around a little bit because he's playing with one arm. It's got to be so frustrating for Carl Mecklenburg. There's Ken Behring,
the new owner of the Seattle Seahawks.
In stereo.
Yeah, that's right. Both had a chance to meet him today.
He's excited about his new franchise, new toy, learning how to be an owner.
Warner behind Williams, he'll get a couple. And for a man who's worth maybe a net $600 million, it is a toy.
What's $600-700 million?
That's right.
It's a million here, a million there.
It's nothing when you don't have it.
Yeah, that's right.
Mike McCormick is the general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, and we are told his job may be in jeopardy. That's the rumor in the press out here.
That is the gentleman clapping his hands now, rooting his team on. I think he's done an excellent job, he and Chuck Knox, building this football team to where they can compete for a division title.
Couldn't agree with you more. Craig drops it to Williams. Down to the 8-yard line. Fletcher and Harden were there to get him, along with Ryan. couple of impressive drives for the Seahawk offense.
Very much so. The offense of the Seahawks, Craig, of course, is 7 for 7. There you see his numbers. But there's such pacing with that offense, and people don't understand. I don't think there's pacing in a football game. You get in the huddle, you call a play, you take the snap, it's a completion. You do it again and again and again. You run a play, you get positive yardage, you don't have a penalty to stop the play. The Seahawks are in a rhythm right now.
First and goal. Just sidestepping his way down to the 5-yard line. Rick Dennison, number 55, was in on the tackle.
Kurt Warner's built for AstroTurf. He's a jitterbug. He runs, all his feet are moving up and down. You see him, starts left, starts right, starts left, starts right, puts his hands out in front, and he comes out the end of the pile.
Time has expired in the first quarter, and Seattle has been impressive with a 7-0 lead.
As the #1 receiver in NFL history, Steve Largent of the Seattle Seahawks has faced many challenges, but none were as tough as when he and his wife, Terry, were told that their 4th child, Kramer, was born with spina bifida.
It was one of the lowest points in my life. No, I was crushed. Really just a huddled mass in the corner of the room, sobbing my eyes out.
We've been very fortunate in our circumstances in that we have the resources and the faith to pull us through a tough situation like this. But there are lots of people that aren't able to do that, and that's where the support from United Way comes in. Lots of families that need United Way to help them through a situation like this.
For us, Kramer is like all our children. Already he dreams of being a cowboy. The hopes and dreams of many children and their parents are counting on the United Way. That's why your support of United Way is so important. United Way, it brings out the best in all of us.
This message furnished by the National Football League.
When the Broncos came into the Kingdome last year, a playoff spot was hanging in the balance for the Seahawks. Coach Chuck Knox reached into his bag of tricks on this flea flicker as Dave Craig connected with Ray Butler for the touchdown. Denver had fought back from a 14-point deficit to tie the score in the third quarter before Butler's heroics won the game for Seattle. The victory propelled the Seahawks into the playoffs. Really haven't needed the flea flicker to Ray Butler tonight. Might see it later anyhow. And in practice on Friday, the Seahawks were working on a couple of trick plays. Right now, they have a 2nd and 5 deep in Denver territory.
I'll tell you something. There's nothing. You don't see that in baseball. When's the last time you saw somebody with a baseball under nose, huh? I mean, everybody talks about baseball, this baseball. That only football you're going to see people with hooks on their nose. You know, little Seahawk people.
Tommy Agee, number 33, into the backfield. Williams. Diving to the goal line. Touchdown!
Effort by John L. Williams. He gets hit on the 5 and just keeps his feet rolling. And there you see the ball land right on the goal line.
An amazing statistic for Denver on the road in their last 5 games. In the first half, they have been outscored 121-10. That's incredible.
It just shows their ineptness in the early parts of the game. Now they're going to take a look at this thing. They're probably going to try and see if his knee is down. We'll take another look at it so that the fans get a chance to boo it. Of course, they'll run it in here, and everybody will boo again.
It's where the ball is when his knee goes down. And it's short.
It's short. That's right. Now, if the official, they're going to run the offense or the kicking team off the field and run the offense back on. This one should be reversed.
I think so, too.
I mean, if they're going to look at the replay, it should be reversed because that's very conclusive. His knee was on the ground before the ball broke the plane of the goal line.
You get a chance. There's Dan Reese. Here's the call.
Shows the ball to be dead on the half-yard line. It is not a touchdown. We're about a third down.
Fans don't like it, but again, you're right. It was a correct call.
You know, this is where the instant replay, I think, has come in to make it fair. Granted, these are decisions made by officials, and obviously the decisions being made by somebody upstairs. But you see his right knee just between Castile's legs. That's the knee on the ground, and the ball is on the half-yard line. So it's a good call by the replay official and good communication down to the field.
So it's 3rd and goal from a foot away. Warner outside. Got a great block from Brian Millard. Walked in.
There's nobody home. I mean, that whole right side, Mike Wilson, Brian Millard, Mike Tice, they just collapsed the right side of the Bronco defense, and Warner just strolled in. There you see everybody pulled to the right. Blair Bush gets the cutoff. Castile takes the outside like he's supposed to. Brian Millard just runs him out into the cheap seats. And Warner says to John L. Williams, "Thank you for getting me this close. I appreciate it."
Largent will come on to hold. Norm Johnson will be the kicker. Try to make it 14-0. Denver's now been shut out 9 of 10 games in the first quarter. It's incredible with their offense. And bad news for Denver fans. They have not come back to win this year if they've been down more than 7 points at any point in the game. Right now they're down by 14. Next week, we should have a game for you with all sorts of playoff and divisional championship implications. The Rams in San Francisco to take on the 49ers. It all starts at 11:30 in the morning with NFL Game Day. Then prime time at 7. Then at 8 o'clock. We'll be in the city by the bay for the Rams and the 49ers.
At 2 of the really great quarterbacks in the league, Jim Everett, a young one on the rise. Joe Montana still riding the crest of that wave of greatness. Fans really get into this one. The fans in the Kingdom, these are the people that started the wave. And I can remember when I played for Washington, when the Seattle fans started the wave, the fans in Washington did it, except that they got so much fun at it doing it. They did it when the offense, the Redskin offense, had the ball. And week after week, we try and say to the press, you got to tell the fans only to do it when the other team's defense or other team's offense is out there.
Norm Johnson to kick off. And the deep man, Ken Bell, 35, Jason Johnson, 87. Bell, 2 yards deep, and he'll leave it in the end zone.
You know, Mike, teams look for tendencies. And on this particular scoring drive, you know, Warner goes in with the 1-yard run. That's the 30th straight time that the Seahawks on 3rd and 1 have run the football. 30 runs, no passes. Now that is a tendency.
But if it works, you keep doing it.
That's right. Just keep on doing it.
Kurt Warner out of Penn State, and that is the Denver defense that has been decimated. Next to last in the National Football League against the run. Elway throws to Jackson. Midfield. Down to the Seattle 45-yard line. A gain of 35 to Mark Jackson.
Well, this is something we talked about, Mike. It's not all John Elway. He needs help, and here he gets some help. Matter of fact, Mark Jackson's the one that told me last night. He said, we have to help John out. Terry Taylor tries to grab onto Mark Jackson. Yeah, I know, TTs. I have trouble with him, and he just gets by him, does an excellent job. Got to protect the ball, though. You make a big play, you can't give it back.
Tony Woods chased him down from behind. That's all right. I had trouble with S's earlier. Winder on the delay. He got 5 yards out of a play that didn't look like much. Moyer and Nash were in on the stop, along with David Wyman, 92.
If Denver can go down and score on this drive, at least get 3 points, it'll be better than like last week when they spotted the Raiders 21, and they spotted some other teams 28 points.
You just can't keep putting yourself in that big a hole and expect to climb out of it.
No, I mean, you take away part of, there is no such thing as running anymore.
Elway with time, throws to Natil, and Natil has it at the 22-yard line. Melvin Jenkins brought him down. It's a gain of 19. And if you give Elway that kind of time, you're in trouble.
Well, the thing is Seattle is dropping back into a deep zone defense, and Natil is just running to the soft spot. Here, we saw Jackson on the one before make a catch across the middle. Now Natil slides in across the middle to make his reception on Melvin Jenkins and pick up big yardage.
Elway 4 out of 7, 76 yards in the first half. Sewell picked up 2 or 3, got down to the 19-yard line. Como was in on the tackle. Wyman was also in the vicinity. Como was a player they got from San Francisco. The 49ers tried to sneak him through waivers, and he was claimed by Seattle, and they have been very fortunate to have him. He's playing in place of Bosworth, and they're very happy with Darren Como.
He has filled the spot. Bosworth was leading the team in tackles, but he's a complete football player. He may not have the speed of a Brian Bosworth, but he's a little bit better in pass coverage than Bosworth was.
Over the middle, Natil. Flattened by Como as he got to the 16-yard line.
That's the one thing about those three amigos. They are not afraid to go across the middle. They don't care where anybody is. They're going to make the catch. Elway takes a little off this ball. That's a tough catch. I mean, when you've got yourself exposed, your ribs exposed, and the ball out front, first of all, catching the John Elway pass is not easy. And secondly, you've got to hang on to it in the middle.
3rd and 4. Jackson. Touchdown. Heck of a play by Mark Jackson. He fought his way into the end zone. And now Moyer didn't want to let Jackson spike the ball, reached out, tried to knock it out of his hand.
There they are.
Unnecessary roughness after the touchdown, number 84, Denver. The touchdown's good, 15 yards on the kickoff.
It goes against Ricky Natil.
Now, who is a little guy like Ricky Natil going to hit? Here's the touchdown. Mark Jackson, for some odd reason, they just gave him a ton of room on the outside. And he's wide open out there, and now he just slides in. Patrick Hunter back off of IR, giving him a lot of room. And then they throw the flag on Ricky Natil. Now, the only thing I can think of is he jumped in there to try and allow Mark to do the spike when Paul Moyer didn't want him.
Right. Carlos to the point after. And with a warm foot indoors, he puts it through. 11 minutes, 5 seconds to go in the first half. Denver back in it.
After students in Bosworth's book of etiquette, personal hygiene. How will you separate yourselves from those barbaric hordes that exude a most malodorous air? Right Guard Sports Stick from Gillette. Maximum protection and a fresh scent. A veritable olfactory medley. Right Guard Sports Stick. Anything less would be uncivilized. Raise your glasses, gentlemen, to civilization.
Tonight's game from Seattle is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. By new Right Guard Sports Stick from Gillette, antiperspirant and deodorant. Anything less would be uncivilized. And by AT&T, the right choice. Ricky Natil flagged for unnecessary roughness for 15 yards, and we reviewed some of our own replays. Really didn't see it.
Well, there's a lot of scuffling going on, and now the Broncos have to kick off from their own 20, which gives the Seattle team excellent field position just from the start.
Taken by Bobby Joe Edmonds. Nearly broke it. Edmonds out to the 44-yard line. A return of 25. Tim Lucas made the tackle. An impressive drive by Denver, 80 yards, only 3.5 minutes. And Elway did most of the damage. Now, these are a receiver's shoes. I guess this is respect when the quarterback's name is written on the receiver's shoes.
Right. My guys used to put mud on there. I don't know what that meant, but you know, Mark Jackson has it on his shoes. Vance Johnson has it on his. I believe Ricky McKeel has it on his. That's a lot of respect for the quarterback. It's a good way to get the ball thrown to you, too.
It is. Seattle back to work with Warner. Mecklenburg got him at the line of scrimmage. Stood him up at the 45-yard line along with Townsend.
Denver's defense has really missed Carl Mecklenburg. Now, here you go. Seattle's now running their offense. They're running that quick offense.
And flags are down. As somebody moved early.
False start, 71 offense, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
That's Millard.
That's also twice. The first time the Seahawks tried to run the hurry-up offense, the official stopped it. Now this time they stopped themselves with a penalty. They've done pretty well without it. I have to think that Coach Knox is going to have to start thinking seriously about saying, look, forget about the hurry-up offense.
Well, Chuck doesn't like mistakes all that much, and twice it hasn't worked. You might not see it again. If you read his book called Hard Knocks, which is a terrific sports book, you'll understand a lot about coaching in this league. Warner. For the great cutback. Warner into Denver territory at the 48-yard line. Mike Harden made the stop.
It's so easy for a running back to get yards when the offensive line does their job. There you see absolutely no penetration and a bubble for him to run to. He's 7 yards downfield before Denver Bronco even gets a half a hand on him. And that you got to give a lot of credit to Ron Madison, Edwin Bailey, Blair Bush, Brian Millard, and Mike Wilson, that front five of the Seahawks.
Very good group of run blockers. Third and short, they go to the shotgun. Craig sidearms it to Williams, first down. Harden knocked him out of bounds at the 30. 17-yard gain, and Dave Craig has been sensational in the first half.
Well, 3rd and 1, they run the football. 3rd and 2, they throw it. Here's a situation where you get Craig out. He just finds John L. out of the backfield, isolated on Jim Ryan. Now, that's what you really want to do. You want to isolate a linebacker on a running back. First of all, the running back knows where he's going. So he obviously has an advantage.
And Mecklenburg comes to the sideline. His first game back after several weeks out with a broken thumb. It looks like they're working on a leg this time. Drops it off to Williams again. They did a couple. Dennis Smith, who's a big hitter and a very tough safety, came up to make the play.
What's so impressive about David Craig is his total control of the offense. What he does is he lines up. That time he audibilized because he thought he had a wide receiver in a pattern he wanted to get. Now what happens, he doesn't get that pattern from the wide receiver. He has the presence of mind to just find John L. Williams, dump the ball off, and winds up picking up 4 yards. So they come out with 2nd and 6 now.
Seattle's done a good job of taking time off the clock. There's only 8:47 to go in the first half. Craig so far perfect. 9 out of 9, 97 yards. Great stutter step down to the 21-yard line, about a yard shy of a first down, and another fight. And the side judge got a place maybe he shouldn't have gotten.
That's Dick Creed, the side judge, trying to jump in and take care of it. Jeremiah Castile all involved out there with, I believe it's Brian Blades.
It is. both of them may be gone. Castile coming toward the sideline. Maybe he's just walking away. We'll hear the officials call and get the explanation.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Number 28 on the defense with retaliation by the offense. After the play, the penalty's offset. Yes, they do. They offset.
That was the voice of Steve Largent you heard saying that. He said it wasn't retaliation. And I'll tell you something. If somebody knows what's going on a football field, it's Steve Largent. There's Castile now. Blades just does a good job of cutting him. And Castile doesn't like it. He throws him down.
Haven't seen a retaliation
You
yet.
show me.
He's standing there.
I'll tell you, that's a lousy job of officiating a fight. I'm glad they don't do the Leonard Hearns fights and stuff like that, or else there's no telling who'd win.
Blades was real smart. He just stood there and took a beating and didn't even get the penalty out of it.
Bad job of officiating right there. No retaliation.
Craig on 3rd and 1. Blades intercepted by Harden. Oh, and Largent unloaded and got the ball. Holy cow, what a shot. There is a flag down.
Holding, number 28, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's Castile. They sent Blades out to beat him.
I'll guarantee you, when that happens, a coach knows what to do. He goes right to a call. He goes right in the huddle, and he says, Brian, you go out and beat him. You want him, you got it. It's your play.
Oh.
That's not holding. That's a mauling.
And then Harden gets the interception. But the hit by Largent, holy cow. What's this?
We knew Steve Largent was upset before. They think he's a little guy, but boy, does he pack a pop.
So Seattle, on the strength of the penalty, 1st and 10 from the 16. Warner, another flag is down. Smith makes the tackle. We'll check this penalty.
You know, paybacks are heck in this business.
Yeah.
Steve Largent didn't forget who knocked him out in their first meeting. It was Mike Harden. Maybe you wait 14 weeks.
Illegal shift, 2 men moving, not resetting on the offense. 32 and the flanker.
Well, you don't have to be a big linebacker to hit people, but look at Largent. Gets his head in front. Harden's feet just come flying off the ground.
And Harden never saw him.
No, never saw him at all.
You begin to drool about 2 yards before that.
I never had, you know, if I did that, I'd be the guy bouncing back or something. But you could tell he was upset on the penalty call.
Well, the momentum of what has been a tremendously exciting and hard-hitting game has been slowed by multiple penalties here in the last couple of minutes.
But the intensity has been increased.
Yes, it has. And I think they'll be going after Jeremiah Castile again sometime very soon. 1st and 15. Craig throws complete inside the 10 to the 9-yard line. Mecklenburg makes the tackle on John Spagnola, the tight end that they picked up from the Eagles when he was cut there.
Spagnola had only 3 receptions coming into this ball game, but he's been a real compliment to Mike Tice. He's the other tight end. He's a big guy. He does a good job of blocking. 6'4", 242. When you've got backs like Warner and Williams, you need that additional tight end to help out.
2nd and 3. The ball just inside the Denver 10-yard line. Williams. Stacked up gain, maybe 1. Greg Cragen, the nose man, was in there. Incredible that Cragen is the leading tackler on this ball club as a nose tackler. There's Cragen coming out. He's only 260 pounds. The entire Denver front defensively is very small, and that's tiny for a nose tackle.
Well, they try and do it with finesse. Truly, they're a finesse defense. They're just not able to stand up and take people on toe-to-toe. Remember now, in 3rd and 1 situations, Seattle likes to run the football. Here it is 3rd and 2. They like to pass.
Craig to Blades. Blades to the 1-yard line. Harden brings him down. It's a first down, Seahawks. And Dave Craig is 11 for 11.
Well, every pass is a high percentage pass for him. There you see him just get the ball out into the flat to Brian Blades. Now, Blades is upset because he doesn't get in the end zone. Excellent job by Mike Harden keeping him out. But Simon Fletcher, now when it's going your way, it just works that way. There you see he throws it around Fletcher's armpit.
First and goal, Seahawks. 5:50 to go in the half. They're trying to go up by 14. Warner. Left Castile, flat-footed, touchdown. This has got to be a helpless feeling.
Well, it is to a degree. There you see Warner. He starts to go inside. Castile commits, and he just turns the corner. I mean, Castile's really in no man's land. If he takes the outside position to stop Warner from doing it, he'll cut up inside of him. Coaches will tell a running back, we'll block everybody but one man, and you have to beat him. That time, Kurt Warner beat Jeremiah Castile.
Norm Johnson going for 3 for 3. Seattle has had the ball 3 times. And the Seahawks offense has converted that 3 possessions into 21 points. That last series of plays is something you're not going to find in the scrapbook of Jeremiah Castile. He'd like to wipe that one out of the memory bank in a hurry.
Well, it seemed like, it started with Brian Blades throwing a low block on him. He probably thought it was too low and then jumped in his face. He's really lucky he's still playing because sometimes they throw guys out for fighting.
Seattle, 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns, 5:46 to go in the half. Norm Johnson kicking off, Ken Bell waiting at the 7. Gets back to the 24-yard line, and a flag is down again.
I believe
Alonzo Mitz made the tackle.
Well, I think this one's going to be for face masking. Bell got in there, and somebody just grabbed onto his nose and wouldn't let it go. Dwayne Harper hung on.
Incidental face mask committed against the ball carrier on the return. 5 yards, first down.
Incidental face mask. I guess you got to rip the guy's head off with a face mask in your hand for it to be non-incidental. There you see Harper grab on, and I tell you, he still, he held on all the way from when he was standing to the ground. That's incidental, huh? Like I said, the head's got to come off.
Apparently. Winder. Sammy Winder. Out to the 43-yard line. Heck of a run by the 7-year man out of Southern Mississippi.
Well, you just can't count this offense out. I think they have a great weapon in John Elway. Now Winder takes a little trap inside. He starts, again, misdirection. Get the linebackers flowing one way, cut back against the grain. Moyer reaches out, tries to get a hand on him. Eugene Robinson finally gets him down 16 yards later.
Great balance by Sammy Winder. First and 10, 5 minutes to go in the half. Winder on the toss from Elway, nowhere to go. Gets out of bounds at the 48-yard line. Last drive for Seattle, this one 55 yards, 9 plays, 5 minutes and 19 seconds. So the 3 drives for Seattle have gone 97, 48, and 55 yards.
I'd say that's consistency. And they've done it with a very controlled, short passing game. their passes have almost been like runs for them, picking up 5-6 yards.
2nd and 5. Sewell may throw. I think the first option on that play was a pass, Joe.
Well, and I think it was a good decision by Sewell not to even turn around and look at it. What happens is, just like when a quarterback is on the move, what you do is you read the linebackers. If the linebackers are coming out and covering you man-to-man, then you just don't even bother turning back. And that's exactly what he did on that play. And, of course, now he's down on the ground. And he's a very valuable part of that offense. Steve Sewell, of course, is their multi-back. He does a lot of receiving. This would put the burden on Tony Dorsett.
49ers and the Rams, of course, both won this weekend, and that sets up a big showdown next week in San Francisco. We'll be there Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Winder, the lone setback on 3rd down. Incomplete, intended for Jackson. Coverage by Vernon Dean.
Well, and it wasn't the coverage that caused the incompletion. The ball was down low. Jackson just couldn't make the catch. Elway just fires this thing down low and hard. It just gets to his body. Very unusual. Mark Jackson's a hand catcher. All the three amigos are hand catchers. They like to get their hands on the ball first as opposed to their chest. That time he let it get to his body and it ricocheted off.
Mike Horan on to punt. Bobby Joe Edmonds is back. Straight up. Out of bounds now. The two officials will get together to mark it, and it's well outside the 20-yard line. Horan went for the corner, and as a result gets only a 26-yard punt. It's that time of year. Bowl games coming up, and you can see 3 of them on ESPN. The All-American Bowl, December 29th. The Gators against the Fighting Illini, 8 o'clock. Then the SeaWorld Holiday Bowl, Oklahoma State and Heisman winner Barry Sanders against Wyoming. And then the Mazda Gator Bowl. Joe and I will be in Jacksonville, Michigan State, and 19th ranked Georgia, January 1st. Williams. John L. Williams running over people for 9 yards. There is a flag down on the play. Joe, Denver simply hasn't been able to stop Seattle at all.
Well, what they have to do is they have to, you're absolutely right, Mike. What they have to do is they have to force them to run east and west a little bit. They have to string out John L. Williams. They have to string out Kurt Warner. If they allow them to cut up out of the eye into in that defense, they're going to give up a ton.
Picked up. 2 men moved, then reset before they started to move again. The play is legal, no foul.
Don't you love the explanation?
What he said. I mean, I've been in this business for 26 years. For a transcript, what you'll do is send $1.50 to the National Football League. They'll mail you a copy of this thing. You figure it out for yourself.
The explanation bothered Santa Claus so much he was ready to leave.
He was confused. I mean, Santa says, geez, here I am going to my bag. Now I got to go back. Now I got to go underneath again. Actually, the guy who was moving was Steve Largent. He stopped and started.
Warner explodes up the middle. First down to the 43-yard line.
That's the running I'm talking about that they have to cut down.
Well, here we go again. Warner got hit a couple of times when he was already on the ground.
I was walking around the field before this game when the Seahawks came out and the Broncos came out.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 56 defense.
Michael Brooks.
A good ball spot, first down.
Sooner or later, both teams are going to realize that the officials are flag happy, and they're just going to have to stop doing it. There he goes. He's on the ground.
He's ripping at the ball.
Well, I mean, he's just trying. I think he's. Well, now he pushes his face. You know, it's one thing to get your emotions up. It's another thing to be able to try and contain yourself. There you see him push his face, and push his face again.
Silly play cost him 15 yards. First down at the Denver 42. Craig DeWilliams. spins off one tackle, and Mecklenburg got him at the 35-yard line.
When I was talking about seeing Kurt Warner and John L. Williams' face, the intensity on their faces. I mean, I walked by and said hello to both of them. They just looked at me like they thought they heard something, but they really didn't. I mean, they were so into the game.
Craig has been absolutely sensational, and so have all of the people he's thrown to and handed off to.
Well, there you see the guy's been catching the ball. The running backs have gotten 8. The wide receivers only 2 passes, and very unusual, the tight ends have gotten a couple.
Craig is 12 for 12. John L. Williams, another big hole in the middle. What a great job by the Seattle offensive line. They're giving these guys room to run, and Williams and Warner don't need a whole lot.
They've got to get their line. They've got to do something to stop them running between the tackles. They have got to force Seattle. Warner and Williams do not have the exceptional speed, and if they can force them outside, Denver's greatest strength on defense is team speed. And so what they have to do is try and get them outside to stop them.
We have reached the 2-minute warning at the Kingdome in Seattle. It's been all Seahawks. They're up 21-7. At the Pro Bowl on ESPN, the Travelers Corporation will present the Travelers NFL Man of the Year Award to the player whose on-field performance is complimented by significant community involvement. This year's nominees from the Denver Broncos, place kicker Rich Karlis, and from the Seattle Seahawks, it's wide receiver Steve Largent.
I already won one, Mike.
I was going to say, I was thinking of you when I said on-air contribution.
I already got one. So thanks anyway, though. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Dave Craig is 12 out of 12. The team record for consecutive completions is 15, held by Jim Zorn. Take the blades. Warner. There goes the string, and it was a catchable ball at the 10. Would have been a nice catch.
Well, you work so long to set up a play like this in the red area, down in the plus area. He fakes it to Blades on a reverse. Now he's got Warner on the sidelines. He just tries to get it there before the defense does. It's out in front of him just a little bit. It would have been a great catch. Just fell right through his hand.
And the oohs and ahs you hear because they were replaying it on the big screen up here at the Kingdome, so the fans get to see all that and make their own decision.
I'll tell you, that's still not some bad number.
No.
12 and 13.
Second and 10. Williams. Broke a tackle. 15. First down. Mark Haynes made the tackle. The Seahawks have had the ball 4 times in this game. They've got 3 touchdowns, and they're driving for another one. They'll use their first timeout with 1:42 left in the first half. But you have to hand it to the Seahawks, knowing that they are in this situation where they need to win their last 2 division title on the line, and they're just going out and really taking it to Denver. Coming up with us at halftime, Chris Berman with television's fastest 3 minutes, highlights of every game today. Roy Firestone with a touching story, the plight of former Packer Travis Williams and what is going on with him and his cause. And, of course, Joe Theismann will be back to analyze what's going on in the first half. And I'm sure Denver's defensive coordinator, Joe Collier, will be doing a little analyzation of his own.
Well, when we sat and visited with Joe yesterday, he said his number one priority was to shut down the run. They have just not done that. They have not taken Seattle out of their game plan. Seattle has done everything they wanted to do in this first half offensively. They've completed short passes. They've kept Elway off the field. They've moved the ball into scoring range.
Denver cannot afford a loss. They would drop to 7 and 8. Williams brought down at the 15-yard line, and Mecklenburg, one hand and a big cast on the other that doesn't allow him to grasp anything, makes the tackle.
I admire his courage tremendously, but I know his effectiveness is hindered. We saw that on the one pass play when he tried to tackle John L. Williams. He could only get the one hand on him and was clubbing him with the other one. And clubbing him just isn't going to bring him down.
Need a bigger club. Craig He's in trouble and goes down. Got down at the 17-yard line. Has the presence of mind to call timeout. And Sean Knight, 99, for Denver, lost his helmet and was running around looking for somebody to hit.
Well, I think they're going to have to be closer. David Craig is not that fleet of foot. Okay, I mean, if you're going to run the ball, you give it to the two guys that are doing the run, and you let David throw the football. He's got to be closer to the line of scrimmage. Denver's, you got to have a great pass rush, and you have to have the defensive line coming off the ball in order to utilize the quarterback draw. Denver's defense has hardly penetrated the line of scrimmage at all. Therefore, the quarterback draw is not an effective play in the game plan.
It's like throwing a screen pass when you're not getting a big pass rush. It doesn't do you any good either.
The quarterback draw, the regular draw, and the screen pass are all utilized against a rush that's coming at you. And that's something Denver's going to have to do. On the other side of the coin, Denver, John Elway's been under pressure all the first half. He's going to have to throw some screens.
3rd and 11 to the Seahawks with 1:02 to go. They have converted every third down they faced in the game so far. Williams turns at the 10, down to the 6, very close to a first down. They'll stop the clock and take a look at the chains. Nice spin move by Williams.
He gets that ball out there, he's swinging the ball around for the, and it helps him as far as momentum goes on the spin move. This brings up a situation where it looks like Seattle has called the timeout, or else they have called the timeout.
We're going to measure. There will not be a charge. We're going to measure to the foot.
Well, David Craig, I see him walk into the sidelines. There's not a charged timeout. What he can do is he could get back and get his team in a huddle, get a play called, and without using a timeout, hurry back and just have his team ready to go.
It will be 4th and inches. What do? You're up 21-7.
Oh, you go
for the field goal,
absolutely.
or you go for the first down?
You go for it. You absolutely go for it. There isn't even any question. The one reason why you go for it is Denver hasn't even come close to stopping a running play, particularly in short yards. I mean, they're 30 for 30 and 3rd and 1. Again, you talk about odds. This would be a great one for him to throw one, but I wouldn't expect it in this situation. And I'm sure Denver's not.
Clock is running. 44 seconds to go. Play fake. Touchdown.
Chart tendencies. You've run the ball 30 times. I'm going to put 11 players at the line of scrimmage. But you see also the offense charts tendencies. They know what they've done, and this was the perfect situation for them to run that play-action pass for a touchdown.
With 33 seconds to go in the half, Norm Johnson makes it a 28-7 lead. Well, I want to give you all the credit there is. You said it would be a great time for play action, but I don't think they'll do it. So you get 75% credit.
Well, I said that sort of knowing they would. I mean, you had to. I mean, you've got a 14-point lead. You know Denver's not going to be able to take the ball down at the end of the half. Your defense is playing great. Your offense is keeping Elway off the field. And it's a good call. Not a good call. It's an excellent call. And look, you can always tell. That's Steve Moore, the offensive coordinator. He walked up and shook Chuck Knox's hands. Now, I'll guarantee you know who called that play if the offensive coordinator walks up and shakes the head coach's hand.
Ken Behring, the new owner of the Seattle Seahawks this year, has his club up 28-7. And, of course, coming in here, he said he would like to see a more wide-open offense. Chuck Knox has never really taken a lot of suggestions from owners or anyone else during his career. He runs the football team the way he thinks it ought to be run, and his track record speaks for itself. And Chuck Knox, under some pressure here. I hope Chuck Knox stays here. I think he's a heck of a football coach and a class act.
He's done a good job, and I think what we're seeing is just typical Seahawk Chuck Knox football.
Gallup to 3. Got back to the 17-yard line. 29 seconds to go in the half. 4 times the Seahawks have had the football, and 4 times they've put 7 points on the board.
And the thing is they've all been fairly good-sized drives. 12 plays, 8 plays, 9 plays, and 10 plays. Thing is they haven't had to go, except for the one big drive, very far.
And it's the most depressing kind of thing for a defense when they shove it right down your throat.
I'll tell you the other thing, too, is Denver has to be careful now not to just throw the ball up. You're not going to listen to me.
Elway throw for Jackson. There was not an official anywhere really close to where that ball came in. From our vantage point, it looked like Jackson may have caught on the short hop.
Well, there you see Elway make the throw now. There's the ball. Well, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
That's a good catch.
Why we have replays, isn't it?
Well, also here in the Kingdome, what they do is they replay it real close so the fans can see it. But I think he gets his hands underneath, and it's a good reception.
Ball spotted at the 37-yard line with 18 seconds to go.
Now they'll come out and do the same thing again. Run the receivers down the field about 40 yards and bring them back towards Elway.
Okay. Will try to get out of bounds and does at the 43 with 11 seconds to go. Denver has 2 timeouts left.
He's got to complete this pass at least to Seattle's 35-yard line, which is a 25-yard completion. Now, that's going to take some time off, but it's the only chance they have of getting Carlos in field goal range.
Carlos has the leg strength, long of 51 this year. And, of course, indoors, you don't have to worry about the wind.
Well, he does have the air conditioning at his back.
Whatever that's for. Elway taking a lot of time. Throws complete at the 34. They signal for a timeout, and they'll get it with 3 seconds left. Vance Johnson with a smart play, and Clarence Kay also downfield, being very alert to get that timeout and stop the clock.
Well, there you are. They're at the 35. That's where I said they'd have to be.
So this will make it a 52-yard attempt, which would be the longest Carlos has made this year.
But, you know, he's 9 for 13 between 40 and 49 yards, so he definitely has the leg, and he's been very accurate from this distance, from a distance relative to this.
Been an excellent kicker for a long time. Carlos out of Kubiak's hold. It will be a 52-yard field goal attempt. Short. He didn't get all of it. So Seattle. Seahawks have something else to celebrate as they leave the field at the end of the first half. Let's join Chris Berman.
All right, Mike Patrick, thank you very much. And so an excellent first half for the Seattle Seahawks as they hope to jump on top in the AFC West. And while you're enjoying a game indoors, as we take a look around the league in week number 15, it was a cold day. That is for sure a classic football day. A lot of fans wish they could have been indoors. Like in Chicago, Soldier Field, it was cold. The Lions led the Bears 12-10. Who did it to them? The Butler did it. Kevin Butler, 32-yard field goal with seconds to go, gives Ditka and the Bears the NFC Central Championship, home field until the Super Bowl. They win it 13-12. Meanwhile, at Green Bay, that's not an elf. It's Jerry Burns dressed up. For the second time this year, the Packers undressed his Minnesota Vikings. Don Majkowski, Patrick Scott, touchdown Packers. Packers don't have this right quite yet with the Gatorade, but they won all right, 18-6 over the Vikings. At San Francisco, Dwight Clark's number 87 retired at halftime by the Niners, who are playing the New Orleans Saints. These are the 49ers. Joe Montana to John Taylor. Niners have won 4 in a row. Saints dropped 3 in a row. Niners on top alone in the NFC West. They beat the Saints 30-17. They clinched at least a wild card berth. Down the coast in Anaheim, the Rams mapping out successful strategy against the Atlanta Falcons. Jim Everett threw for 303 yards, including this 28-yard touchdown hookup to Henry Ellard. When it was over, the Rams have beat the Falcons for the second time this year, 22-7. They could, with some other possibilities, still win the division. In the House of Pain, Cincinnati, with a 2-game lead in the AFC Central, visited the Oilers. But it was the Oilers that inflicted loads of pain. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Mike Rozier finally hid in the end zone, which he did 3 times. It was a banner day for the Blue. They were number 1. Doug Smith's son says 41-6, Houston big. McGill the Gorilla on hand as the Giants hosted the Kansas City Chiefs. Mark Bavaro hadn't caught a touchdown pass in 8 weeks, but he caught 2 on the day, like days of old. Bavaro catching, good defense. Joe Morris churning it up for a big day on the ground as the Giants win 28-12 over the Chiefs. Cold day in Washington, too, but the feelings were really cold when Michael Irvin caught not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdown passes from Steve Pelor. The Cowboys, ending a long losing streak, shocked the champs, 24-17. At New England, how cold was it? Some fancy jerseys by the Buccaneers, some unfancy passing by Tony Eason. Playing for the first time in a year, the Buccaneers took the Patriots to overtime, but the Patriots, Jason Starofsky, 27-yard field goal, keeps them in the playoff hunt. In overtime, the Patriots beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 10-7. The Mark Malone game. Last year as a Steeler, he beat the Chargers. This time as a Charger, he beat his old team, the Steelers. Malone to Darren Flutie, whose brother Doug sat for the Patriots. Darren caught a touchdown pass. Chargers beat the Steelers in San Diego, 20-14. In Buffalo, the Bills, yes, it was cold. Perfect weather to play an LA team like the Raiders. Thurman Thomas was near perfect to a 100-yard day. Ron Fellows, he's not going to get this tackle. Touchdown for Thomas. And Jim Kelly finishes it off with a pass to Butch, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. Ho, ho, ho. The Bills were rolling again because they got a home game, 37-21. And the oddity of it all, if the Seahawks win, which it looks like they may do tonight, the Raiders at 7-8 could control their own destiny, or would, because they host the Seahawks next week, and if they win, they could win the West at 8-8. Once Upon a Time in the West, a song by Dire Straits, perfect for this division. The Broncos are in dire straits because the Seahawks are playing like fine wine. They lead at 28-7. We'll be right back.
It's Bowl Week on ESPN. The All-American Bowl featuring the Florida Gators against the Fighting Illini. The SeaWorld Holiday Bowl with Heisman Trophy winner Barry Sanders leading Oklahoma State against high-scoring WAC champion Wyoming. And the Mazda Gator Bowl, a showdown between Georgia and Michigan State in the only bowl game on New Year's Day. It's a bowl bonanza, live on ESPN.
Today, NFL Charities announced a $15,000 grant to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, making the total commitment to Big Brothers Big Sisters $130,000. 28-7, Seahawks over the Broncos, set to start the third quarter, and Seattle will get the football again. Rich Carlos to kick it off, and Kevin Harmon and Bobby Joe Edmonds, 34 and 30, are deep to receive. Harmon at the goal line. And got back to the 19-yard line. Halftime statistics.
They're all Seattle. 19 first downs. Passing, John Elway, 10 for 14. That's not bad as it is. Passing yardage, very comparable. Rushing yardage is the big difference in the game. And, of course, the total yardage, 247 yards. You have to look at time of possession as you look down this halftime sheet. 18 and a half minutes roughly for Seattle. 11 minutes, 20 seconds for Denver. If they're doing the job of keeping John Elway on the sidelines, then the offense of the Broncos is basically ineffective.
Last week at New England, Seattle had the ball for only 18:55 the entire game. Craig on first down up top. Largent. Largent to the 35-yard line. He beat Mark Haynes for 46 yards.
Well, we've talked about the fact that Denver's been unable to stop the run. You put the corners one-on-one. Largent just owns Haynes on this one. A little out and up move. He gets Haynes to bite, and it's party over. He just runs down the field. Craig does a great job of laying this ball out. You have a tendency as a quarterback to want to underthrow a receiver that wide open, but he hit him in stride.
Largent holds most NFL receiving records. This could be his last home game. He's had a couple of bad injuries this year. Craig in trouble, gets rid of it, throwing for Warner. And almost caught the ball, pushed by Rick Dennison at the last moment. Seattle has done nothing wrong on offense. They started with a 97-yard touchdown drive that went 12 plays. And every drive they had resulted in the same thing, a touchdown. 12, 8, 9, and 10 plays. You just can't get any better than that.
No, yellow is, if you get yellow, if you got all yellow on the chart, that's okay. They got all yellow.
They're working on more yellow, too. They're at the Denver 35. Warner, the deep back in the eye. And he'll get the call. Warner stiff arms Haynes out of bounds at the 30. There's a flag down. Back at the line of scrimmage.
See, that time Denver forced Kurt Warner to, he started inside. He wanted to take it up inside, but they forced him to go wide.
Preliminary signal is a hold. One of the few mistakes Seattle's made all night.
Holding. Number 70, offense during the run. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat, second down.
Ron Mattis, their 300-pound left tackle. And we have officially gotten the word from the NFL. This is exactly what must have to happen for these teams to win the division. Denver has to win its last two games. It doesn't look good right now. Seattle has to win its last two, including the Raiders next week. If they lose tonight, they have to beat the Raiders and hope that the Broncos lose. The Raiders, it gets complicated. They need some help in order to get in. Craig with all day to throw. Floats it to Blades. Blades knocked forward to the 32-yard line. The man that knocked him forward, Greg Cragen, the nose man, hustling downfield. And, of course, the Raiders sitting at home rooting for Seattle. They need to have Seattle win tonight. Then they could win next week and still win the division.
That's right. Even though they were taken apart today in Buffalo. Made a lot of mental mistakes. Watching the Raiders play football, that's not a Raider team that I remember.
No.
I'm wearing an NFC championship ring instead of a world championship ring because I played against what I considered a Raider football team. They just don't make mistakes. This ball club makes too many to win too many football games.
3rd and 7 for Craig. Complete to Blades again. Blades at the 26-yard line. It looks like he is shy of a first down. Let's see where they mark it. They'll mark it closer to the 25.
Well, they'll give it to him at forward possession. What happens is he catches the ball. He's at forward possession. He gets hit and knocked back. So it's forward progress. Excuse me. His forward progress was up around the 25-yard line, so that's where they mark it.
And it will be a first down at the 25.
Now you see he's got to come to the 25-yard line. You see where he is? The ball is at the 25. Now he gets dragged back and knocked back. Even though he's trying to run, they still give him forward progress.
Warner behind Williams. Nice play again by Dennis Smith the strong safety, who forces us about as well as anybody.
Well, both their safeties, Dennis Smith, number 49, Mike Harden, number 31, they're called upon because of the inability of the Denver front seven to really shut down the run. The safeties are the only guys who can come up and give you quick support, and it puts a whole bunch of pressure on Jeremiah Castile and Mark Haynes. You know, it's like, Jeremiah, you got that half the field. Mark, you got that half. It's like when you in Sandlot. You know, you're playing with 3 people. You're the quarterback and 2 wide receivers. Those other guys got to come up.
Kevin Harmon is into the running back replacing Warner. Harmon is 34. He'll lead Williams. Oh, and Castile got leveled by John L. Castile may go home tonight and wipe this date off the calendar.
Well, I'll tell you who really makes a block. Kevin Harmon, number 34, right part of your screen. He just goes out and handles Michael Brooks. He gets Michael Brooks, number 56, turned around. And then John L. just lowers that shoulder, and Jeremiah is doing everything he can to try and get him out of bounds.
Mike Harden is down. Brian Blades is standing over him. He is the guy who put him down with a devastating block. We'll check on his condition in a moment. Tonight's game from Seattle is brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPV. By Bud Light, everything else is just a light. And by Thrifty Car Rental. For worldwide reservations, call 1-800-4CARS. Mike Harden on the sideline, came off under his own power, limping a little bit. Tyrone Braxton is in for him, and Harden has taken a couple of real shots tonight, both from wide receivers. Warner after one play back in, following Wilson. Touchdown.
This is, again, they get the linebackers flowing up top. You see the linebackers start to flow? This is really the Washington Redskins' old counter tray. Mike Wilson pulls through the hole. Brian Millard, number 71, pulls through. And Warner goes in, escorted by his big offensive line.
Wilson had a hard time finding anybody to hit. It was wide open. Norm Johnson makes it 35-7. Seattle's had the ball 5 times in this game. They've scored 5 touchdowns. Kurt Warner has 3. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann back with you in Seattle. We expected a high-scoring game. We've gotten it from Seattle. We haven't gotten it from Denver.
Well, the thing is about Denver, and, you know, people are saying, oh, geez, 35-7. Joe's going to say you can't count them out. You really can't count Denver out. I think from right now, they should never punt the second half. They're going to have to take every down, and if they don't make it, so what? They're just going to have to keep on trying to move the football.
That's right. Being beaten, they're already down by 28. Anything worse than that really doesn't make any difference. Bell and Johnson are deep to receive. The kick of Norm Johnson. Good one here, and Bell 3 yards deep in the end zone. Will keep it there. And Denver will have to start from its own 20. And for the 5th straight time, the Seahawks got the football. Pulled off a very good drive, this time 81 yards. And Kurt Warner got his 3rd touchdown, the third touchdown game of his career.
All they're really doing is taking less time to score.
Yeah.
That one was a little over 3 minutes. The others have been like, it went from like 8 to 6 to 5 to 4. Now it's down to 3.
Denver better not take too much longer to score either. Elway complete to Johnson out at the 34-yard line. Taylor forced him out of bounds.
There's a natural tendency to relax a little bit if you're Seattle's defense, and they can't do it.
Here are the possessions for Denver in the first half. 7 plays and a punt and 5 plays and a punt. Their one drive in the first half that resulted in a touchdown. And they had to punt again. And they only had the ball. There was the long field goal missed by Carlos. They only had the ball 5 times. Seattle had it 4 times in the first half. It's all on the shoulders of Elway right now. Sewell out of the backfield up to the 45-yard line. Brought down by Scholes and Como. Tony Dorsett has not been in the ballgame at all, and down 35-7, we probably won't see him tonight.
He can go get dressed.
Yeah.
Tony can go get dressed and just take it easy. There he is. People, I don't think, can appreciate what that man has accomplished. There you see it in the numbers. He's second in NFL history. 12 years of taking a constant pounding. You deserve a medal for it.
Elway trying to scramble, gets to midfield. And I'll tell you one thing. When we talked to Dan Reeves, he was not critical of Tony Dorsett at all. As a matter of fact, very complimentary about what Dorsett has been able to do.
Well, what's the thing is Tony Dorsett came here to try and give Denver a running game. They lost a bunch of their offensive linemen during the exhibition season. Their wide receivers have been in and out and irregular. And we pointed out the biggest reason why Tony Dorsett has been unable to contribute is that Denver has been out of a lot of games, basically through the first half or even the first quarter of a game. So you can't run him. You can't utilize his strength.
And they love him here. Over the middle, Como makes the tackle again, this time on Clarence Kay, who's down to the 43-yard line. And it will be a first down for Elway. Playing with a very painful elbow. Ruptured a bursa sac, and it's bad enough to have that playing on artificial turf. When he gets knocked down, he can really have a chance to re-injure.
Well, the banging of it on the turf is a constant aggravation. He told me before that it has started to fill up again, but it really isn't a problem. And the way he's throwing, it doesn't look like it is.
Nash blocked off the play. And Melvin Jenkins pulled up rather than to hit Elway and let him get out of bounds.
Well, John does a good thing there. You know, he runs out of bounds. He saves some time on the clock. Really, the only thing that Denver has in their favor is that there's 9 minutes to go in this quarter, and they're stopping the clock. They're getting first downs. I mean, they can put some drives together that only take 2, 3, 4 minutes. They can bounce back in this thing. But it all is going to fall on Denver's defense's shoulders. They've got to figure out some way to stop Seattle.
And they haven't done it yet. And they have not forced Seattle to punt in this ballgame. Elway rifles one, almost intercepted by Terry Taylor. Also over there was Paul Moyer, the strong safety who's taken Kenny Easley's spot when Easley was forced to retire because of a kidney condition.
John just thinks his arm is going to get this one done. As it turns out, it wasn't. I think he expected Sewell to come out a little further and back. Another thing he mentioned is that the inconsistency with his wide receivers this year, and we ought to mention right now, I think the biggest impact on the Denver Bronco football team is the loss of Mike Shanahan on offense. That whole football team misses what he contributed to that offense.
3rd and 8. Jackson loose at the 20. Moyer takes him out of bounds at the 9. And there is a penalty flag down. And I believe it's going to be the left tackle, Dave Studdard, who got a hand up in the face of the blitzing Tony Woods and really moved his helmet back a couple of times.
Well, they've got one against Seattle also. So you got one flag in the backfield. You got one on one side of the field, one on the other side of the field.
I was watching Studdard.
There are 2 fouls. Offside, number 79 defense. Also, defensive holding, hands to the face by number 57 defense. The defensive hold will be accepted. 5 yards, automatic first down.
Studdard got away with one, and I mean a big-time job of putting his hands up in the helmet of Tony Woods right in the face.
Well, you know, that time Tony Woods is coach. See him on the left side of your screen. There's Woods. I mean,
from the end of the run.
Woods had his in there, too, so it was a question of who got caught. Now they tack it on to the run. And Denver's going to be down close with about 8:50 to go in the 3rd quarter.
The distance from the end of the run.
So the Broncos get a break as the ball is spotted inside the 10-yard line. And it will be 1st and goal for the Broncos.
Occurred during the pass, not during the run that followed. Therefore, both penalties are declined. Completed pass, 1st down, goal to go.
Again, for a transcript of what you just heard, please write the National Football League somewhere in New York, and they'll try and explain it to you. Obviously, the penalty came while the play was, while John was throwing the ball, not while Mark was running with it, so they don't add it to the play.
And I may have been a little hasty on Studdard. Elway throws it out of bounds. Mobley the closest to it. There is another flag down, this at the 15-yard line.
Holding, number 70, offense.
Studdard.
Well, Tony Woods has just given Dave Studdard fits. Of course, Studdard's at 260, Woods is at 240. He just is a real quick linebacker. You know, he's building that mold, although his number isn't 56. He's like a Lawrence Taylor, a Tippett, a Swilling, all those great number 56s. There you'll see it, lower left side. He's just got him in a hammer lock.
Repeat 1st down.
That's a throwdown.
Used to be called a body slam.
That's a throwdown.
Something about that Denver offensive line, though. Studdard is playing with a sprained shoulder and a bad toe. Billy Bryan playing with a hip pointer. Jim Juriga with a separated shoulder. Ken Lanier with a chronic groin pull. Keith Bishop back up because of injuries. A bad foot and a bad thumb. They've just been beaten to a pulp. Sewell on the handoff. Vernon Dean makes the tackle at the 15-yard line.
What happens is when the other team's offense has been so proficient as Seattle's has, it takes Denver completely out of their game plan. I mean, they were coming into this one throwing the ball anyway. But if you don't have your offense on the field, you just can't operate.
It will be 2nd and goal from the 14.
They've scored every time they've had the ball down there, but only 16 times in 15 football games.
Elway waited as long as they could, and they've got him. And a flag is down. They've got a face mask. Wyman got there first, and then Jacob Green got there, and you could see Green look up at Elway as if to say, I'm sorry.
Well, you know, he gets ducking around and lowers that head, and they're grabbing anything they can to try and get their hands on him.
Face mask, number 79 on the defense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
And that wipes out a sack that he would have liked to have, would have been his 8th.
See Elway dance around. They got people flying all over, and there's one of those, you know, when do they call it flagrant? I mean,
boy, no kidding.
I mean, they're talking about
the defensive foul was further behind the line of scrimmage than the ordinary penalty yardage. We moved the ball to the previous spot. It is still 2nd down.
Whatever you say, Gord.
Merkel press, 50 cents.
Whatever you say.
They'll send you a copy.
Whatever you say. I don't think the people can afford a transcript for this one. But anyway, Denver has the ball. Seattle's on defense. And I'll tell you, I hope every owner in the National Football League is watching this telecast tonight. And when they have their meetings, wherever they have it, someplace sunny, warm, and beautiful, they sit down and the competition committee gets rid of this incidental grabbing of your head and just make it a penalty if somebody gets grabbed in the face, because somebody's going to get hurt and then they're all going to be sorry.
2nd and goal from the 14. Jacob Green with a sack. And that time, no face mask, all quarterback.
This is what's called a coverage sack. You're going to see these secondary people go back and just cover everybody. Elway's here in the shotgun. He has absolutely no one to throw to in that secondary. That's a coverage sack. Look at that secondary coverage. Now, Elway just doesn't have anybody open to get the ball to.
3rd and goal from the 20. Blocked, almost intercepted by Ken Clark. And here comes the field goal team.
Well, you just got to save it. He just guns this thing about hip high. Oh.
That should have stuck.
Like between the 6 and the 7. It's a good thing Ken Clark is as big as he is.
Yeah.
A little guy, that'd hurt.
He's a little smaller right now.
Well, you can't move that much mass.
Carlos. 37-yard field goal attempt. Forget it. It's been that kind of night for the Broncos. They're down by 28.
The Rams drive to make L.A. the city of champions. The 49ers will go for the gold. The Rams and 49ers battle head-to-head on NFL Sunday Night Football, live on ESPN.
Rams and the 49ers next week will be coming your way from San Francisco at 8 o'clock. Hope you'll be with us. And glad you could join us tonight on ESPN, a Sunday night from Seattle. 6:59 still to go, 3rd quarter. But the Seahawks are ripping up the Denver Broncos 35-7. Warner. Brought down at the 28-yard line. Dennis Smith again on the tackle.
Well, again, a lot of credit to that offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks. They are not allowing the pursuit angles and lanes of the linebacking core of the Denver Broncos, and they're just really Warner's.
The Rams drive to make L.A. the city of champions. The 49ers will go for the gold. The Rams and 49ers battle head-to-head on NFL Sunday Night Football, live on ESPN.
Rams and the 49ers next week will be coming your way from San Francisco at 8 o'clock. Hope you'll be with us. And glad you could join us tonight on ESPN, a Sunday night from Seattle. 6:59 still to go, 3rd quarter. But the Seahawks are ripping up the Denver Broncos 35-7. Warner. Brought down at the 28-yard line. Dennis Smith again on the tackle.
Well, again, a lot of credit to that offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks. They are not allowing the pursuit angles and lanes of the linebacking core of the Denver Broncos, and they're just really, Warner and Williams are both running north and south all night.
The Denver bench, not a very happy place to be right now. They have been beaten physically, and that's the toughest thing to take. 2nd and 1. Yeah. John L. Williams, 1st down.
You know, visiting with Mark Jackson, we talk about Denver's ball club. He said normally you wait until the end of the year to start reflecting on what could have been in a year. He said he is catching himself now with 2 games to go, reflecting a little bit on this season. The Pittsburgh game, which they lost, they felt like they should have won. The Kansas City game that got away from them. Two games that if Denver wins, they're really in control of this whole AFC West. So, I mean, you know, the problem is you start reflecting a little bit early.
Craig, play action again. Craig has had a brilliant game. Gets it out to Largent. Dennis Smith goes over and just makes the touch. Like Craig saying, hey, I'm sorry, I should have thrown it up so you didn't have to fall down to get it.
But he can do no wrong. He just walks over. See, what they're doing is saying, I just have to read your pass route a little bit better.
Craig, 18 out of 20. 218 yards. Largent has 3 of them.
And both balls that were incomplete were thrown to Kurt Warner. Now, I would venture a guess. And I don't think Kurt Warner's going to get another one thrown to him because he's dropped 2, the only 2 that Craig hasn't completed. So David's going to say, I'll go someplace else.
It's amazing. He could be 20 for 20 very easily. behind Mattis. Gets to midfield. Haynes made the tackle. Take a look at the numbers, Joe. Not bad for Elway. Tough to stack up to Craig tonight.
Well, Elway has the big one that's here is the 4 sacks. Great pressure by Seattle's front, actually just by their front 4. They're not bringing linebackers, but Elway's completion's well over 50%. And David Craig he's going to wake up tomorrow and really think that he was dreaming. I mean, I have had the good fortune of having just a couple games in my career where you have a day like this where you just feel like there isn't anything you throw out there that one of your guys isn't going to catch.
Warner able to change direction so beautifully. He's down to the 43-yard line. First down. Boyer and Dennis Smith made the tackle.
Well, the other thing is when you've got Blair Bush, number 59, the center, he's got Sean Knight on him. Now, when you've got the nose tackle back 9 yards from the line of scrimmage and making a tackle that deep, that just simply tells you what's going on up front. Now here, Dennis Smith has got to come in all the way from the strong safety position on the side of the formation to make the tackle.
It's the first down, the 26th of the game for Seattle. That's a season high, and we have 3:09 to go in the third quarter. Craig with all night. Throws back to Tice. One of the few times the passing play only gets a couple of yards down to the 41-yard line.
And if you'll notice, we have not seen David Craig run a classic traditional drop-back pass all night. Think back. Everything he's run has been off of play action. And it just puts Denver in such a bind. Well, they're blooding our noses here running the ball. We have to play run go. Oh, no, they're throwing the ball. We have to drop back. Their corners do a good job of covering, but the linebackers get caught out of position. Therefore, he can throw the ball to John L. Williams, to Mike Tice.
Kurt Warner has his third 100-yard game of the season. 18 carries, 100 yards tonight. John L. Williams on the delay. Has to cut it outside. In the corner. He is faster than he looks. Mike Harden made the tackle.
I think if there's one guy I think's earned a trip to Hawaii in the Pro Bowl, it's John L. Williams. To an offense to have, and the problem is he's a legit fullback. And usually, you know, the guys, you got the Eric Dickersons, and of course the John Stevens in New England, who's another great back. He shouldn't be left out because he is a true fullback. And a lot of times they just look at the running back positions in Pro Bowl.
Exactly.
Had that situation when John Riggins played with the Washington Redskins, a guy who never made it to the Pro Bowl because they didn't vote on a single back, basically. They just voted on halfbacks. And certainly if there was anybody who was the most valuable player for the Redskins in the early 80s, it was John Riggins.
Williams this year has gained nearly 800 yards rushing and is the leading receiver for this ball club. Came into the night with 44 catches.
He's got to develop a dance, like the Icky dance. Like the William Waddle or something. Williams Waddle.
Warner. It's a classic in-and-out dip for an I-back. Run out of bounds with a first down.
I'll tell you, Denver's defense is absolutely, with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, exhausted. I mean, they have just sat there and gotten everybody pounded on them.
Ain't what she used to be is right. That Bronco defense has gone from one of the most respected and frightening units in the league to 27th in the NFL against the run. And even with Carl Mecklenburg back tonight, they haven't been able to stop Seattle at all.
Well, you know, and just like Denver's offense is not a one-man offense in John Elway, they're certainly not a one-man defense with Carl Mecklenburg. But part of the problem that they run into is he's out there with one arm. And he's really playing with one hand.
Dan Reeves made a good point. As you see Joe Collier, who's the defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, Dan Reeves made an excellent point to us the other night. He lost Mike Shanahan, his offensive coordinator, and 2 other assistants right at the beginning of March, the last time you can have assistants move in the National Football League. It really set the team back during training camp. Williams He delivers blows rather than takes them. A punishing runner.
He's got my vote.
I'm not going to tell him no.
No, I mean, he got my vote to go.
I'll carry his luggage to the plane.
Look at this. He lowers that left shoulder. Now, Harden is a real tough hitter. He comes in low. John L. gets down as low with him, and, you know, he's still moving forward.
Harden, of course, has taken a couple of shots in this game, one from Largent in the first half. You might remember earlier in the season, it was Harden who put Largent out with a concussion, and the hit was late, and it was a $5,000 fine from the league. Warner cuts it outside. Good night. Touchdown. For the first time in his career, Kurt Warner has rushed for 4 touchdowns in a single game.
It's a case of total dominance up front. That entire offensive line is locked up with a man on the Bronco team. Everybody's got a block, and he just simply outruns Jeremiah Castile to the corner. I would stay up to watch this just to see if Seattle can be stopped. I wouldn't turn off the television set in a game like this. I want to see if they can actually be stopped. For no other reason, I'd just try and see if it happens.
Norm Johnson, who may be getting leg weary, adds another point after. And with 1:47 to go, third quarter, it's 42-7.
Seattle Cellular.
There's the forgotten man standing behind Kurt Warner of this Seattle team, Ruben Rodriguez, the punter.
He's still holding his helmet, which I really don't understand. I mean, that's not confidence in your offense, is it, when you're standing there holding your helmet? But you see what he does. You see how he's got his thumb hung on his belt? He's really not holding his helmet. It's sort of just like hanging on his hand, which is a hook.
In domes this year, Denver's allowed 55 points to Indianapolis, 42 to New Orleans, 42 tonight. They don't like it indoors. Kenny Bell on the return, back to the 22. Fumble! Holy cow, looks like Seattle's got it.
No, I think they're going to mark him down.
I hope so.
The official's going to...
Really, it's 42-7. And they do blow it down.
And you don't think these fans want blood? They're booing.
I mean, Denver hasn't made mistakes offensively. They haven't turned the ball over. Can you imagine what this would be like?
No, it's just, this has been an offensive clinic. Here's your replay. Now, really, I'll tell you something. He's not down.
That's loose.
Yeah, that's a fumble.
That's loose, and if they review it...
If they review it, they'll reverse it. But at 42-7, I think that they won't take a look at it.
I think mercy comes into this somewhere.
There's our guy, Mr. Porter.
Rufus Porter, Beeman on special teams. And Denver will keep the football. They ruled down by contact. Elway out in the flat to Sewell. Nice move, almost got away, but Vernon Dean tripped him up. A couple of flags down on the play. We'll check him out with 1:25 to go in the quarter.
One's going to be roughing the passer, I can tell you that right now. Elway's limping around a little bit.
Illegal motion, number 70, offense. Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 61, defense. We will invoke the 5 and 15 rule. The major penalty will be enforced. 15 yards from the previous spot. First down.
The foul is on Alonzo Mitz, number 61. Take a look. To the head.
Yeah, you just can't slap a guy around in the head. They won't allow that.
But you could grab his face mask
and
turn it 360 degrees, and it's only 5 yards.
That's right. Makes a lot of sense.
Oh, what was
this is a simple game. It's Kelly Stoffer. Now, we've seen David Craig with a lot of touch passes tonight, just dropping the ball off to the backs, floating the ball down the field where he has to. Kelly Stoffer, who played some ball games while Craig was out, has got a real gun for an arm.
A little more like Elway than Craig. Elway throws, maybe a little hard. Jackson couldn't hold on. Will bring up a 3rd and 10.
I have been in games like this, and you know what the key word is? Survive. It really is. You don't want to hang out a receiver. You want to just survive and get through it in one piece. And you could sit here and say and think, well, a lot of things can happen. There aren't enough things that can happen, I don't think, in this one for the Bronx to be able to pull it out.
Excuse me, I called the wrong down. It's 2nd and 10. Elway sends Jackson to the other side. Over the middle, Johnson at the 48-yard line. Very close to another first down. Eugene Robinson covered him there.
Seattle is very happy with the Broncos continuing to complete 10-yard passes, 10-yard passes, because the clock is their ally.
And it looks like they will measure for the first down. One guy we haven't had a chance to talk about too much tonight, because Denver has not run the football, is linebacker David Wyman, number 92. And Wyman is one of those guys who has made, as you take a look at the measurement, and it will be short. Wyman, an inside linebacker for the Seattle Ball Club, has come back off of 2 major injuries and has really become a star on this football team. There is Wyman. When he was at college at Stanford, the doctor said it was the worst football-related knee injury they had ever seen. They didn't think he'd walk very well, let alone play. Then he had a terrible shoulder injury. They tried to trade him to San Francisco. He flunked the physical, and he came back. No.
He's a 2nd-round draft choice in '87, and he's playing like it.
And Tony Dorsett is in the ball game for the first time on 3rd and 1. And Elway on the quarterback keeper to midfield. And now Dorsett will come out of the ball game. That's got to feel a little funny for somebody like Tony Dorsett to have sort of a ceremonial appearance as a decoy.
Well, you know, he came to these Broncos as a role player. His role was to run the football. And, you know, he has 794 yards, almost 800 yards of rushing offense, which is a good year for anybody.
Elway has to go short again. Jackson picked up and dropped by Terry Taylor. That's the end of the 3rd quarter in a blowout in Seattle. It's the Seahawks over the Broncos, 42-7. Back in a moment. This year against the San Diego Chargers, Steve Largent, in typically understated fashion, etched his name in the NFL record book once more. With this catch, Largent broke Charlie Joyner's record for yards receiving in a career. Largent has led all Seahawk receivers for 12 straight years and holds some of the NFL's most prestigious records. Among those records, receptions, receiving yards, consecutive games with a reception. He got number 166 tonight. And he's just been a marvelous receiver. Denver 1st and 10. Inside toss. Winder forced out of bounds back at the 44. Gene Robinson ran him out of bounds. Gary Kubiak, the backup quarterback for Denver. Dan Reeves manages a wry smile on the sideline.
Well, you know, there's really, I mean, you can't sit there and pout about it. I mean, they have been blown out by a more dominant offensive football team tonight. That's the bottom line of this one.
Elway has it tipped. Caught by Sewell at to 26. Maybe the first break Denver's gotten all night.
That's a jump. I don't know what page that one's on. But, you know, bounce it off here. Bounce it off an offensive lineman's hand. There we go. Ken Clark, number 67, gets it up in the air. Then it hits Terry Taylor in the arm, and then Sewell winds up with it for the completion.
So it's first and 10 at the 26 for Denver. 14-16 left in this. Elway winded, dropped it, incomplete. Seahawks still going strong on defense. Up 42-7.
It's very interesting. You know, we did the New England game a few weeks ago, and we talked about people knock Doug Flutie because of his height. Gosh, he throws the football and it always gets batted up in the air. There's been 4 that I can remember tonight that John Elway has had batted around, and he is 6'3". So it's really, the defensive linemen are smarter. If they get blocked at the line of scrimmage, they don't rush. They just stand there and jump up and swat at the ball.
Second and 10. Elway unloads to Jackson. Got the first down and out of bounds in front of Robinson. Elway had Jeff Bryant clinging to the back of his jersey. Jackson has just set another, tied another personal best. 7 catches, 137 yards. He's 1 more catch and 8 yards to have 3 back-to-back-to-back games where he set personal best.
How do you go back-to-back-to-back? Get 3
Good
people?
question. 3 games. Next week, Seattle against the Raiders for first place. Winder fought off a couple of tackles, got down to the 10-yard line. Again, Robinson on the tackle, number 41. He is the team's leading tackler. Came in with 101.
The most important thing for both teams at this stage of the game with the score where it is you can't let up. Because if you do let up at all, there's a very, very great risk of injury, because the other guy could be going 100% if you're going 85. That's when you get yourself hurt pretty bad. So you just don't, no matter, you can't really think about the score. You just have to go with each play, go as hard as you can.
Tipped up in the air again and incomplete. Jeff Bryant right in Elway's face. That's the 5th batted ball.
You know, we've talked an awful lot about the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks. But Jeff Bryant, Joe Nash, their nose tackle, and Jacob Green, number 79, have just put tremendous pressure on Elway. That time, Bryant was knocked to the ground. Could have stayed down, but he got up and managed to bat the ball up in the air.
Ball spotted at the 10. It is 3rd and 5. Winder stopped just shy of a first down at the 7. Wyman made the tackle. Clock continues to run with 12:55 left.
It was interesting talking to Coach Reeves last night, Mike, and he brought up the point about going to 2 Super Bowls consecutively. Your team doesn't get a chance to get rested. Most of the teams in the league are finished December 18th, which will be this year. And a lot of his players went all the way through the end of January. And if you're Super Bowl contenders, you more than likely have a bunch of them in the Pro Bowl, so you don't finish till early February. And I think that these Broncos might just be a little bit tired. I know we as Redskins are that way.
4th and inches. Winder tries to go outside. Might not have made it. Jenkins giving the official help in spotting the ball. And he did not make it. Seattle's football. Seattle by 35. Back in a Tonight's game from Seattle is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Kendall Motor Oil for protection worth its weight in gold. And by Tempstar, the newest name in home heating and air conditioning. You can rely on the Star. Seahawks 42-7, 12-12 to go in the ballgame. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann with you. Glad you could join us on a Sunday night. Dave Craig continues at quarterback. Starts at its own 6. Williams gets out to the 9-yard line. They've had touchdown drives tonight of 97, 52, 55, 75, 81, and 80. And if you think that's impressive, that is every drive that they've had.
They started, 5 of them in their own territory.
It has, in a word, it has been impressive.
Boy, it has. I haven't seen an offensive show like this in a long time.
2nd and 7. Agee is in at fullback, and Warner is stuffed as he got back to the 7-yard line. Big play by Michael Brooks, the right outside linebacker. Brooks out of LSU suffered a devastating knee injury, and there you see the stats on Kurt Warner. 4 rushing touchdowns, best he's ever done in a single ballgame. But back to Brooks, a devastating knee injury. When they tested it here, they said his good knee was the strongest knee they had ever tested in Seattle, and the bad knee that was blown out and had to be rebuilt was almost as good.
58 plays that Seattle's run tonight. This is only their 8th third down.
Most of the time they haven't needed 3 plays. Craig to Blades. And contact and no flag. Steve Wilson, number 45, bumped into him.
And I'm sure people are wondering, why is Seattle trying to move the ball down the field? Now, he has him beat. David Craig just doesn't get the ball out. And both players are trying to get back for the ball. I wouldn't call that one. The reason why Seattle wants to run up as many points as they can, because in the event of a tiebreaker, they're going to need as many points as they can get within the division. So that's why you just keep on plugging along and putting numbers up.
This is the first punt of the night for Ruben Rodriguez. Denver with 10 men on the line, and they're tumbling. And he got it out of there. Vance Johnson comes up and makes the fair catch inside the 40. A kick of 31 yards. We have 10:31 left to go from the Kingdome in Seattle. There's the story from the Kingdome in Seattle. 10.5 minutes to go in the game, and it is all Seahawks. 42-7. Carl Mecklenburg on the Denver sideline. Been a rough return for number 77, coming back off the injured list. Denver takes over at the Seattle 39. Elway in trouble, throws it out of bounds. Next week, we have the Rams and the 49ers from San Francisco. Starts at 8 o'clock Eastern. And a big, big game. The division title on the line out there. We will give you a rundown on exactly what has to happen for both those ball clubs to either win the division or make the playoffs as a wild card.
That's another reason why I'd stay up and watch this. Information. We're just full of information.
You don't think you're reaching at all?
There are people who are not going to sleep well tonight unless they know what the playoff picture is.
The Denver coaching staff is a group of them. Elway guns it in complete. Closest man to the ball was Sewell. Tough year for John. All right, here is the situation. The 49ers, if they beat the Rams to win the West, or they lose to the Rams and the Saints defeat the Falcons. The Rams defeat the 49ers and the Saints lose to the Falcons. New Orleans, they can't win the division title. If it is a three-way tie, the 49ers win. And wild card, we're not crazy enough to get into that. The league is still trying to figure it out. It'll take up 2 pages in tomorrow's paper. Elway complete to Johnson, who goes down hard as Terry Taylor took his legs out from under him. At this point of the ballgame, Joe, you really have to want to catch it to go up in the air after.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's your job. I mean, Johnson just plants. I mean, these guys are professionals. They're not going to sit down. He makes the catch, gets his feet torn out from under him, and lands on his arm, but still hangs on to the ball.
4-man rush, Elway again, almost picked off. Jenkins had a real shot at it, intended for Ricky Nattiel. Nattiel has had a bad ankle, missed 2 of the last 3 ball games. Denver physically really bummed up.
Offensively, they've just absolutely come apart at the seams. Started in training camp when Studdard got hurt. And like you mentioned, Mike, Gerald Perry's the only guy who stayed healthy for him. There you see Vernon Dean almost get a hand on it as well. But Denver offensively, they've not had their wide receivers healthy all year, or their offensive line, or their quarterback.
Tough combination. Elway throws too high for Sewell, out of bounds. It'll bring up a 3rd and 10.
Come on, find some hands.
This is what has happened to John Elway tonight, and you've been through those.
Yeah, 4 knockdowns, 5 hurries. And what a hurry is it means that somebody's really right on your neck. And you want to get rid of it. And, of course, the sacks and the 4 pass blocks. I mean, you know, when you consider that, that's 8 passes, the sacks and the 4 block ones that go nowhere. You know, you don't get them off. They're wasted downs. You can't give away 8 plays in a game.
Here's where the numbers can be deceiving. Elway 21 out of 34 for 270 yards, but he's behind by 35 points. Loose ball, and Seattle has it. Recovered by Rufus Porter.
And Rufus Porter ran John Elway down as well. I mean, he's not only a special team star, he's trying to make an impact on the coaches to say, I can play as well.
It's a rookie from Southern.
There you see him run him down from behind. Now that right hand just slaps in. This is the way defensive backs do it. They try and reach over and knock the ball loose, particularly when you're dealing with a quarterback who's not used to carrying the football as much as John Elway. We'll be back in a little bit. 42-7 Seahawks.
John Elway looking up at the scoreboard where it's 42-7 Seattle with 9:42 left to go in the game. Seattle football after the first turnover. John L. Williams. He's about 5. Brought down by Freddie Gilbert, number 90. And Gary Kubiak may come in on the next series.
This is not an enviable position to go into. I mean, you sort of know that Seattle realizes you have to throw the football, and you're going to go back in there, and basically you're fresh meat. There's no other way to describe it. Like I say, I have walked in those shoes. This season he's 61%. You know, he's thrown for 400-some-odd yards, 5 TDs, 3 interceptions.
Every time I have ever seen Gary Kubiak play, he played well.
Oh, he's
every
hot.
time. But you're right, he's going to be less than thrilled to come into this. Warner. Outruns Fletcher, steps out of bounds at the 33-yard line. 4 touchdowns tonight, and he has topped 1,000 yards. For the 4th time in his career, there is a penalty flag down on the play. We'll check that out for you. 1,000 yards still the standard for running backs, even with a 16-game schedule.
I don't think it should be.
No?
I think
it should be higher?
Yeah, I think it should. I think 1,300 yards should be a standard because you're playing 16 football games.
Holding, number 33, offense. 10-yard penalty from the dead ball spot. Repeat, second down.
Tommy Agee.
You know, I mean, you can get 65 yards a game and go over 1,000 yards. I don't think that's any great accomplishment, particularly with the skill of the athletes that are in the game today. A guy like Eric Dickerson, you know, he's an individual. Marcus Allen, Eric Dickerson. If a Bo Jackson ever decided to play football full-time, somebody like that, I mean, their standard would be right around 1,500 yards. I would think that would be an exceptional season for runners like Kurt Warner would be, I think, there.
Williams behind Warner. He's got the 29-yard line. In case you joined us late, here's the way it started. John L. Williams, a 14-yard pass from Dave Craig, 7-0 first quarter. Warner then made it 14-0 on a 1-yard run. Jackson, a 15-yard pass from Elway. This was really the only time Denver was in the game, when it was 14-7. Warner made it a 14-point lead, and it just continues to build. Spagnuolo got in the act from Craig. Warner, one of his 4 touchdowns, made it 35-7. And Warner again, this time from 12 yards. And in the third quarter, it's 42-7. Warner's gone over 100. John L. Williams has 93. And Seattle did exactly what Chuck Knox wanted to do. Come out here, establish the ground game, run play-action passes off of it, and really the kind of offense that Knox likes to run. And interesting, talking to him on Friday, Chuck Knox probably cares about the kicking game as much as any coach in this league. He's got Rusty Tillman, who used to be a special teams demon with the Redskins, buddy of yours, who is the special teams coach.
The correct time remaining in the fourth quarter is 8 minutes, 12 seconds. 8:12 on the clock, please.
They're taking 15 seconds off the clock, which is a break for just about anybody. But back to Chuck Knox. He likens the kicking game to the military. He wants to establish control of territory, go get the next hill, pick up a beachhead, that kind of thing. Very interesting approach to it. Control of territory.
Yeah, well this time the enemy surrendered before he ever managed to get his troops out on the field. I mean, now it's probably why he's upset.
Officials, our statistician Mark Frederickson just pointed out the officials have taken more than 2 minutes.
We are having clock difficulties. The scoreboard clock is not working. The remaining time will be kept on the field by the line judge.
They've taken 2 minutes to try to get 15 seconds off the clock. And hopefully the line judge will just let that baby tick.
We did that in college when I was at the University of Notre Dame. The coaches came over my sophomore year. They made an agreement. The second half took 30 seconds, or 30 minutes. Was it ball out of bounds, penalties, didn't matter. Second half took exactly 30 minutes.
30 seconds would have been interesting in this one. Wouldn't have changed the result. Craig to Williams on the draw. 35, 38-yard line. John L. Williams still running hard. Brought down by Ryan and Braxton. That ought to get him to 100. Second time in 3 weeks, Seattle has had 2 backs get 100. Williams with 102 so far tonight. Kurt Warner with 125.
And they're still in the ballgame.
They're really, Tommy Agee has carried once this year. The other backup running backs, Kevin Harmon and Bobby Joe Edmonds, have no carries, no receptions. So it's Kurt Warner or John L. Williams or forget it.
You know, you don't have to key on a lot of other people.
That's true. Warner, and they just want to keep the clock working. It is not working here on the scoreboard, so we can't tell you how much time is left.
Less than 8 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yeah,
that we are
that's
sure.
True.
I think Chuck Knox has now got to start thinking about taking his starters out of the ballgame. I mean, he's run the ball down. He's run the clock down. It's now time to get them out. They've got to be a little leg weary. They've got to be a little bit tired. And you just give the guys another chance to play. I got to tell you, though, as a starter, they don't want to come out.
Right.
They just want to keep on rolling. And you know, when things are going good, you just want to be a part of it.
Well, they may be tired just from spiking the ball in the end zone. Williams. Got Backs it out to about the 43-yard line. Steve Wilson and Dennison made a tackle. Coming up, college basketball on ESPN, 9 o'clock Eastern. Temple and St. Joe's. Get a chance to look at Mark Macon. Great player for Temple, but Temple with some problems this year, turning the ball over an awful lot, and John Chaney doesn't like that at all.
Well, LSU has got a little guard. Chris Jackson, I believe, a little freshman, scored 53 the other night. Broke Pete Maravich's single-game record.
Some record.
Unbelievable.
Inside handoff to Williams. Across the 45 to 46.
Somebody woke Ruben up. He's got to go punt. Ruben. It's fourth down. Go out on the field. Oh, okay.
They scored the first 6 times they had the football, all touchdowns. And really put it out of reach. Even with Denver's tremendous offensive potential, if your defense can't ever stop the other guy from scoring, it doesn't make any difference.
Ruben Rodriguez got to be careful. He's rested his leg since warm-ups 3 or 4 hours ago. And he's got to be careful he doesn't hurt himself.
Vance Johnson back to the punt. Beautiful punt. Mile high. Johnson lets it go. And like a sand wedge, it bites back to the 5-yard line. It's down.
Not like mine.
50-yard punt. That kind of a night for the Seahawks. Hope you'll be with us next week from San Francisco. We'll have the Rams and the 49ers. Bill Walsh looking for another divisional title for San Francisco. John Robinson has his team back after a midseason slump. The 49ers have all the weapons. Running back Roger Craig, all-pro wide receiver Jerry Rice back in stride. The Rams are not without weapons, however. Jim Everett looking for a Pro Bowl season. And we hope you'll be with us next week for a crucial game that could decide the NFC Western Division title. And both of them may have the kind of offensive night that Seattle has had tonight. Gary Kubiak is on for the Broncos. To Clarence Kay. Kay is out to the 11-yard line. The scoreboard clock shows 0 here in the Kingdom, so we have no way of telling you how much time is left.
First downs, 19 first downs for the Broncos, 30 first downs for the Seahawks.
Kubiak comes out on 2nd and 4.